Hello and welcome to the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me for today's event is Brad Clenk with Sam Kumo on the cameras. We're here at the superb Watkins Glen circuit for the final round of the championship prior to the showdown. And Brad, this is a massive round. Often at this point of the championship, it can be quite obvious who's going to get into the showdown places. But looking at the point standings right now, it really is up for many drivers in both the teams championships and both the drivers championships.
Yeah, hi Sam. Thanks for the intro there. It's my first time covering this series, but I have watched several of the races through the season, so yeah, it's been good to watch, and looking forward to calling it today. But, yeah, as we can see on the screen there, the points are still stacked pretty close right throughout the field. There's really close gaps between the drivers, so there's still a lot to play for. And you can see we've got Jack Sedgwick up the top, and he's got a lead of just 39 points over Ross McFarlane, and Nickel Foggy is not far behind there either, so it should be exciting to see how it all plays out, especially with the wheel coming into effect for the second and third races.
Yeah, definitely. So anyone who isn't aware, in this series, we've got three 20-minute races. The first race is decided on qualifying, which we are currently progressing through. And then race 2 and race 3 will be a random reverse. The reverse grid can go up to about a full grid. So we could have 30 odd drivers reverse potentially. It should be a lot of fun for that. In terms of the showdown, I guess I didn't really explain what the showdown was to kind of new viewers to the series earlier on. But of course, if you need to get into the top 10 places to be eligible for the showdown, which will be basically the points will be reset for the final 3 rounds. Anyone who watches NASCAR will be familiar, and the points will be reset, and it's pretty much a clean sheet. And it really does give plenty of drivers great opportunity. However, you got to get into that top 10, and in the championship, it is so close for those positions. Also in the AM championship as well, you got to get into the top 8 places. So basically, it's going to be very close. You can have a massive swing of points in this series. You can imagine with these reverse grids, it can go very wrong very quickly. So it should be a terrific round of the season. In terms of this Watkins Glen circuit, Brad, I mean, it's one of the circuits that drivers are most familiar with on the service, despite not being a free track. It is so enjoyable and such good racing we have around here that people have put thousands of laps around this place.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people as well. Had a good race here in the 6 hour earlier in the year, and it's a great track in like multi-class racing and in one-make racing like we see today. A lot of drafting on this layout without the inner loop. So yeah, these Audis do they're not huge cars, but they do punch a reasonable hole in the air. So I expect to see the drivers using the draft quite a bit along this stretch here into the outer loop.
Yeah, it'll be a real challenge for the Jazz. And of course, the wall's pretty close around this place as well, particularly through the boot section that we are using today. So plenty of opportunities for some crashes. Hopefully, we don't see too many of them, although a little bit of controversy is always fantastic to witness. Of course, currently in qualifying, uh, we've got Nicole Foggy up at the top, 1/10 of a second clear of Sven Glatzel. Last time out at Phillip Island, I believe it was, or maybe 2 weeks ago at Phillip Island. Ash Sutton was actually quite far ahead, so interesting that it seems like Foggy has maybe reacted a little bit there. But of course, Wojciech Suridovich, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Wojciech, Brad, but of course, he's a 5-time winner of this series of the BSRTC that this championship was previously known as. However, only just into the showdown places at the moment, but putting himself up in 4th place, that's really where he wants to be.
Yeah, I have definitely seen him up to the pointy end of these races when I have tuned in for them before. So yeah, he'll have to try and keep it very clean, particularly through those reverse grid races, if he wants to try and gain something points-wise and solidify his place in the showdown. So that'll be something for the viewers to keep track of during this evening's broadcast.
Yeah, and those race starts as well are going to be absolutely incredible potentially. Anyone who's watched the Apex Racing TV Facebook page knows the carnage that you can have around the first lap here, particularly up through the hill, and the wall's so narrow to the side of the circuit. So really is quite a challenge for the drivers to keep it okay out there, but there is Wojciech Swidericz trying to improve on those lap times. You can see how the drivers just queuing up behind one another. You really do want a little bit of a draft. You can imagine pretty much no turbulent air whatsoever in these vehicles. So if you can get right close, maybe half a second behind a quick guy at the start of lap, it can really tow you around for the rest of the lap as we enter the last minute of this session.
Yeah, the first lap also is going to be interesting here with the left-hander at the chute heading onto the boot. These cars, obviously, it takes quite a while to get the tyre temp in with the new tyre model and the rear tyres for these front-wheel drive cars. So you can quite often see the rear of the car getting away from a driver through that turn as they sort of plunge downhill into the boot section of the track, and also turn one here, the 90-degree turner, 90-degree corner there. It's quite easy to lose the car early in the race there, as the rears take longer to come up to temperature compared to the fronts. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of excitement in those sort of hot spots of the track early on.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, these drivers as well. I mean, you question how many BSRTC and ARL TC races we've had around this circuit. You'd expect them to be, up to scratch with this place, know the dangers, but certainly no one is immune around this circuit. Jack Cedric just put the fastest lap of the session in 1.5 tenths clear of Nick Hofog. I mean, that's a big gap in these cars in this series. Such a competitive grid, really. Is one of the best we see on the iRacing esports network. So Cedric currently leading, Foggy alongside him on the front row of the grid as we talk. However, Jamie Rushworth for CQR trying to better his time. Currently sitting in 15th place. I mean, he's only 7 tenths of a second off pole position. Really does show the competitiveness of this place. Also good to see Alex Simpson, a colleague of ours at Apex Racing TV, up there in 9th place at the moment. A little bit out of the showdown running, I believe, after missing a few rounds, but still putting in a good effort. There is Mark Woodhouse, one of the top AM drivers, I believe, but going back into the pits to just trundle down there. And we'll keep an eye out on if anyone can put in a very strong time just to finish off this session as the drivers complete their final lap.
Yeah, it looks like Woodhouse did put in the quickest lap of the AM drivers there, unless someone improves right in the dying stages of qualifying. And just having a look at Andrew Whitehead there. It's one of the boosted drivers. Great looking livery on that car.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen too many of the new options you can have on iRacing. Of course, anyone who hasn't seen, since week 13 last week, you can now have chrome and matte paints, which is absolutely incredible. Fantastic addition to iRacing, a feature that really wasn't expected too much until a couple of days before the build. But I'm not quite sure. Is that matte? It always does look like it, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think some of the cars out there have made some subtle use of the new features. I know the Australian community with the V8 supercars have been very busy making replica liveries of a lot of cars from the history of that series, making good use of the chrome.
I mean,
So
it's
yeah,
gonna look absolutely brilliant when everyone on the grid has it. And of course, it doesn't have to be massive chrome or massive matte. You can have a little bit of a a middle of the two, but no, it will be absolutely fantastic. Of course, this is an American circuit, so we would normally have the full formation lap, but instead it's a standing start, so we can jump straight into it. So on pole position is Jack Sedgwick by 1.5 tenths of a second ahead of Nicole Foggy. Sven Glatzel starts in third. Good qualifying for Dave Baker up in fourth. Then it's Ash Sutton, Pete Harrod, and Wojciech Suredovic. Good, a big meeting for him in seventh. Then behind that, it's Ross McFarlane, Alex Simpson, and George Simmons rounding out the top 10. Then it's Palmer, Newman, Cunniff, Cooper, Rushworth, Janowski, Cooper again, Rose, and Woodhouse and McIntyre rounding out the top 20. The rest of the field will go through for you now as we get closer and closer to the start of this event. Of course, race 1 out of the 20 minutes in length around this Watkins Glen circuit, and a lot is on the line. Who is going to bet to their chances at qualifying for the showdown? Unfortunately, it seems like Alex Simpson may not take the start, but we'll wait and see. It's Jack Sedgwick on the pole position then. Can he convert this position to the lead as we are about to get underway? Just the final few drivers getting onto the grid. And of course, watch out for those first few corners. Of course, going up the hill where it really narrows, we can often get 4 wide in this series off the start, and so could cause quite a lot of carnage. And of course, the boot section as well also narrows with the walls encompassing the circuit right on the outside. Just waiting for the final few drivers to take to the grid. Could have upwards of 40 drivers as we are away. Good start for Jack Sedgwick. He should be able to hold the leaders. He's got the inside line into turn 1. Nicole Foggy might lose out potentially to Sven Glatzel, depending on how aggressive Glatzel is. He just backs out of it in the end. Could be a good run for Foggy down into the 180-degree corner later on in the track. However, already into single file are the majority of the front runners. That's a really good sign. And nice driving from Jack Sedgwick, car number 2. Is he going to be under pressure, though, at the end of this back straight? Perhaps Foggy is one of the best opportunities to make a move. Poor start for Pete Howard, though, gone from 6th down to 9th already, as the slipstream chain really does start. 4th and 5th pretty close, but here's the battle for the lead. Can Foggy take it round the outside? Glatzel just waiting for a collision potentially between these two drivers. Foggy has gone all the way around the outside of that one. He'll have the inside for the next corner, and he should be able to make this one stick. However, Sedgwick finding a lot of grip on the outside of this, and they've now been side by side for a good half a minute or so. Foggy just trying to pull ahead, covers off the inside line. Is there going to be contact between the two of them? No, there is not, and Nicole Foggy takes the lead on that one.
Yeah, that's a very well behaved start from everyone there. It's good to see. It should set up some really good racing here. So Glatzel just trying to look around the outside here at the heel, and that'll get the inside on the run back onto the main circuit. Still side by side, a little bit of rubbing there perhaps, but that's what we expect in this category.
Good effort from Sedgwick to try to hang on to this one, but these guys are kind of losing each other a bit of time. They don't want to lose the slipstream to the race leader. That's contact between 3rd and 4th. Great save from Sven Glatzel. I think that was Ash Sutton just going into his rear corner slightly, and now those guys are holding each other up. Might be CQR side by side. Sutton got past Baker on the opening lap, but I think his teammate might try to retaliate here as they almost make contact once again. Diving back onto the circuit after running wide at turn 1, and this could really get very aggressive at the end of the back straight.
Yeah, there's quite a tight pack there, just sort of from Glatzel through to McFarlane and Simpson. I believe they're very, very close to each other, all those cars. You can see Sutton looking to the outside. Oh, it looks like perhaps a little bit of contact there. So they head down into the outer loop. He's going to tuck back in behind Glatzel there, and we've got a car running wide. Manages to pick it up and stay on track at the loop there.
Yeah, Ben Palmer dropping down. Oh dear, Sven Glatzel from 4th position, or even 3rd position, I believe, and he is round. This is what happened. So this was Sutton Must have been Sutton on his tail again. They made contact at the last corner. Oh, Sutton's gone for an ambitious move, and,
Ooh.
well, I wonder if Sven might protest that one after the event is over. You can still see he's trying to make his way back up through the order. I believe he's safe in the points to qualify for the showdown, but a big shame for him. He can only hope for a big reverse grid as he's right in the wars now.
Yeah, it's quite hard to make a move in the chute there because it's a very, very short braking area. It's not a really hard stop there, so you really need to be beside the car before you get, like, really get beside the car on the approach to the corner there. You can't really do it under brakes, so a little bit opportunistic, shall we say, from Sutton. Anyway, it looks like the guys have settled down again. We've got some too wide action heading down into turn 1 here. Everyone's trying to get sorted out into single file before they head up through the S's, but we've still got a couple of cars arguing over position here as they head up the hill.
Julian Janowski a little bit involved in this, just being able to fend off his rival there of Colin Cunniff. He's down a couple of places as Cunniff, so not a particularly good start for him. Also down is Pete Harrod as the top two make it close again. Cedric on that last lap was 0.4 of a second faster than Foggy, so fell behind. But I think we saw at Phillip Island, that slipstream effect can pretty much drag you back from upwards of a second away, which is quite incredible for this car, especially seeing that it's quite a new car on iRacing, as side by side with Savidovic trying to hold back to McFarlane. Both these guys with good starts, and Savidovic wants to have a crack at the CQR drivers ahead if he possibly can. Contact between the two of them. It almost looks as though Savidovic was going to lose out despite being the car on the inside, but he does just pull himself ahead. That's Alex Simpson just behind these guys, and he might be able to go for a move. He wants to help out his teammates, of course. Savidovic is deep on the brakes, goes McFarlane, and he did well to back out of that, but Savidovic is time to go defensive into almost every single one of these corners right now.
Well, looks like we've got some more trouble down in the boot section there. That's Cooper, is it?
Yep, Luke Cooper. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, it's fantastic to have both Luke Cooper and Jason Cooper in this race, but it is quite confusing for us. Cooper now, or Luke Cooper, right at the back of the field, down in 38th place. Only one retiree, that is Martin Sampson. I'm not quite sure what happened to him, but good attrition rates so far.
So it's interesting at the moment with all these cars sort of battling and using the slipstream in the midfield here. The guys out front are still setting some great pace, but we've got 5 different drivers setting faster sector times across the 5 sectors at the moment. So everyone's racing hard and trying to get the most out of the cars as the fuel load comes down a little bit. You see this train here heading down the backstretch. We've got Pete Newman diving to the inside on the entry to the inner loop there, trying to make a move, and he makes that one stick as well. So that was a nice slipstream move, and got it done early before there was any trouble heading into the entry.
Battle of the Pete's then. Newman gets him past Harrod. Harrod having a poor start, down 6 places. No, I'm sure that's not purely down to pace. I'm sure he's maybe been knocked about a little bit. The TCR car often doesn't show its bruises too well. It is built like a rock, which is very useful in a championship like this, as we've got an Apex driver trying to make a move. That's Ben Palmer losing out to George Simmons, was it? Yes, it was. So Simmons up a place into 8th. Palmer down into 9th. However, 2 places gained for both of them. Rushworth only just behind. He's up 5 places. So got nice momentum for him. Was very close between Foggy and Cedric for a little bit. Down at the back straight on the last lap. However, have just dragged each other away a little bit now as they race through that final corner. Really tricky corner, especially in a front-wheel drive car, I imagine, Brad, because it's, the wall that comes up very close to you on the exit.
Yeah, especially when you're really trying to get on the throttle nice in the early on the last corner there to get the run down the straight. And if you're a little bit too early in these cars, you will find yourself with some understeer pretty easily, and yeah, you don't want to be finding that wall because while these cars are quite tough, it'll slow your exit down a lot if you graze that wall, and you'll probably lose 3 or 4 positions in some of these trains here. So just heading up the end of the S's along this back stretch because everyone's trying to maximize the draft from the car in front. Looks like Chris Wood, he's thinking about a move at the end of the straight, and looks like a teammate of his is in a pretty fierce battle here with Rusty Ladler.
Rusty, good defense there through the chute. However, you can see there's quite a few drivers piling up behind them. This could be reverse grid pole, of course. It really does vary quite a bit. I think it can be as small as 15 or as large as everyone but one driver, which would currently be 37th place. So yeah, a massive range. However, you want to be as far up as possible just to make sure that you are within that reverse grid. And of course, it can really help you come race 2. And of course, race 3 can be a real deal breaker for these drivers. And of course, if you try and go for the showdown, it can be a massive spot of luck for you to claim the points that you need. As yeah, just this queue of drivers. That last lap, Ross McFarlane was the fastest driver out on circuit, down in 6th place. So you're absolutely right, as you were saying earlier on, just everyone from anywhere putting in the fastest laps as we go round. And once again, McFarlane actually very quick. This time, actually, George Simmons down in 8th place with the fastest lap of the race. So I guess it's just a case of you fall back from a driver slightly, you can pick up the slipstream, have a little bit of space to work with, and you can set a very good time. Of course, you do get some bonus points as well for that, along with leading a lap. So it's certainly worth it. As McFarlane tries to gain, however, everyone in front of him has got a slipstream as well, so he's not really making much progress.
And you can see it's one of the Apex drivers there looking to the inside. I think that might have been Alex, just trying to get him move down towards the end of the straight there, but there was no hole to place the car into, and a little bit of nose to tail contact as they head down to the chute into the boot section of the track, heading down to the toe here, which is a really fun corner. So the camber of the corner changes as you go around it, and then it's actually quite a steep exit. So everyone wants to try and get on the throttle as soon as possible there to get the run up the hill here to the heel. Again, we've got 2 wide action heading into the entry of the corner. Oh, it's still a little bit of contact, but everyone being quite respectful out here so far. This race has been a little calmer than I anticipated.
Yeah, I'm sure races 2 and 3 will take away from that, however. Could get very action-packed there, but yeah, you're absolutely right. The racing so far has been very respectful amongst these drivers. It's really fantastic to see. McFarlane just dropping off a little bit again. We'll see who's the fastest driver across the line. Certainly looks like it's going to be a two-way battle. Foggy and Cedric 2.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, with Sutton dragging these other drivers along. He's got his teammate David Baker as a little bit of a roadblock to just fend off any attack potentially, as they all take that very wide line through turn 1. You can just see how competitive it is, and of course so many different teams being represented. The team championship is absolutely massive, and because of the showdown, those points will get reset going into the final 4 rounds of the season. So really is anyone's up for grab in this series. As Simpson gets really close to McFarlane again, he might have a decent chance this time. He goes to the inside. McFarlane happy to take that outside line, perhaps the inside getting a little bit rubbered in, and that might make it a little bit more slick potentially. That outside line still carrying plenty of grip, and of course yields the inside line for the following corner. Simpson keeps his nose in there, and McFarlane might just have to leave him a bit of space on the corner exit. Simpson has timed this one absolutely perfectly, and this should make the move a little bit more simple. However, he hasn't got the banking. McFarlane does, and the car number 3 going all the way round the outside. They are losing a little bit of time to the gyros ahead, and now another Apex gyro trying to get involved, shoving him along. George Simmons helping out Alex Simpson significantly, and he might even try to freight train the V-Racer driver, but of course Simpson can't even get the move done himself. This is incredible side-by-side action. They've been side-by-side for pretty much this entire boot section, and a little bit of contact from the pair of them now. Simpson will probably have to back out of it, finally going through the penultimate corner, although does get maybe his part of his car ever so slightly ahead. Still side by side, we'll have the inside for the final corner. McFarlane's got to be careful here of the wall on the outside, and Simpson finally gets ahead, and now I think McFarlane might get a little bit boxed in.
Yeah, Simmons didn't quite get the run onto the straight there that he would have liked. Oh, there's contact. McFarlane's sideways, but gathers it back up, loses a few places, but fortunately doesn't head straight on into the barriers at turn 1. But yeah, McFarlane didn't quite get the exit on the last turn, which he would have hoped for to be able to follow Alex through there. But he's only he's got one less car to worry about now after McFarlane had that little issue.
Yeah, I'll be relieved about that one. McFarlane just trying to hold on to what places he can. That's wide for Colin Cunniff, who'd, I think, made some decent positions up, to be fair, Cunniff, but now drops back down to the 41 car. We are approaching the, well, still got a decent while to go, to be fair, so plenty of opportunities for things to change. Gap between second and third has come down a little bit. Nicole Foggy and Jack Sedgwick still leading the way. Ash Sutton making up a little bit of time, but smart driving from the top two at the moment. Well, smart driving certainly from Jack Sedgwick. He's not trying to overtake the race leader because he knows one attempted overtake which doesn't work, and all of a sudden you're inviting Sutton, Baker, and Sawidovic, and maybe even the likes of Simpson as well into this lead pack. So just staying behind, I guess that's the experience that Jack Sedgwick has got.
Yeah, it seems like Sutton and Baker have been happy to work together back there as well to try and close the gap, and Sawidovic seems like he's quite content to follow in their slipstream at the moment. See if they can drag him up towards the front. It's probably, they might just run out of time towards the end of this one, but there's no sense in having a lot of position changes when you're trying to close that gap. Better off to try and work together, which the CQR boys seem to have done. It's probably worth noting McNally's made some good progress, up 6 positions, and has got a little bit of a gap over Woodhouse in the lead of the AM class. And he's a couple positions ahead on track there, and Jake Blackhall for the Knight Rider Motorsports team has made up 13 positions so far in this one. So yeah, quite a few drivers been able to take advantage of such a tight pack, make up some good moves.
Yes, some good progress to be made by those guys. Not massive progress made by the drivers in the top 20, but yeah, some nice progress from a couple of the drivers, particularly Jake Blackhall. There's Janowski. Oh, that's a big impact, and that's how close the walls are. Fortunately, he bounces way off the circuit, so he don't involve any other drivers. That's Colin Cunniff, whose race has kind of gone from good to bad to really bad, and he may finish more than one lap down. Of course, you need to be within one lap to, or within 2 laps to get eligible for the first grid, so that could be very significant. But big shame for Colin Cunniff because he was driving very well earlier on. Here is Sawidovic, though, back to the front. He has got ahead of Dave Baker, crucially. So that's a change for 4th place. And as Stutson gets closer still to the top 2, that gap is coming down by a few tenths of a second per lap. Wojciech Sawidovic, all of a sudden, I mean, it doesn't look like he's got a great chance at the race win at the moment, but he is getting closer and closer as we reach the probably 2 more or 3 more laps to go now.
Yeah, I think as Sutton started to be able to gap Baker there, Sawidovic just decided to put the pedal down a little bit and make that move so that Sutton didn't get away. If he's got any chance of podium, he needs to sort of get on the coattails of Sutton there and try and use that draft to get up to the front too. See Sedgwick not trying to make the move there, just basically bump drafting with Foggy to try and defend against Sutton coming up towards them. They'll probably try and work together until the last moment with that fight out front.
Simmons battling with Palmer. This for 7th place. Great drive from Ben Palmer. The most places gained out of anyone in the top 8. Also, Jamie Rushworth a little bit behind, up 6 places himself in 9th. But Simmons has made up a couple of places as well, and he can't quite get past the 1:02 driver as it stands. As will be the final lap coming up for these drivers. It seems like it will be a two-way battle, but still Palmer having to go to the middle of the circuit, just telling Simmons that there's absolutely no way of getting past going into the tote. And they are a little bit detached in order to make any progress ahead of them. That's Alex Simpson, just the car up the road. But I think we need to go to car number 66, Nicole Foggy, because we are approaching the final few opportunities to make an overtake. We've seen overtakes around this circuit in every single corner, I think, so far in this race. However, by far the best opportunity is down the back straight into the carousel. Sedgwick has been waiting for this opportunity for a while. You can see he's ducking out of the slipstream. He wants to get an awesome launch. I'm not quite sure what the perfect distance will be behind. However, he wants a perfect slingshot. He's 0.3 of a second behind. He'll try to keep his foot in all the way up through the hill as the gap goes down to 0.2 of a second, 1.5 of a second. Boyd down to 1/10 of a second. He's certainly going to be able to get alongside, but he's going to have to go the long way round if he's going to win this event. They are side by side. Sedgwick will move ahead. Car number 2, who took pole position, he retakes the lead. However, Foggy's still got parts of his car alongside. We're seeing this outside line being probably the preferable line so far. This is how Foggy took the lead on the first lap. But now, lap 11, I think it's Sedgwick who would just be able to pull ahead down into the chute. Can he shove out the XVR driver? Yes, he can. He just about gets his car ahead, and now it's defense all the way. Is there any retaliation now for Nicole Foggy?
So really clever driving from Foggy to plan out that slingshot. But just in the background, as they went into the outer loop, Savidovic had closed on Sutton and was trying a similar move, and then I think they might have been contact because Baker and Simpson were able to come through into P3 and P4.
Oh, here comes Foggy. That was nearly an incredible move to go around the outside. You're absolutely right about Sutton, who's falling further down the field, and Savidovic as well. There may have been more contact with those drivers as there's a few chops and changes, but out in the lead, Jack Sedgwick has timed this absolutely perfect. This has been a masterclass in racecraft from him, staying behind all the way to the final lap, and when he got his one opportunity, he made it stick. As they approach the line now, it's going to be Sedgwick from Foggy. Jack Sedgwick is the race 1 winner at Watkins Glen. Brilliant drive from him. And that was absolute textbook stuff. Baker rounding out the podium in the end.
Yeah, Foggy will feel perhaps a little bit hard done by there, but Sedgwick earned that with some really clever driving towards the end of the race there. So congratulations to him. And yeah, just that contact towards the end of the race really shuffled up the order inside the top 10 there. Not sure if we'll be able to take a look at that, but all the other guys coming across the line now. Looks like McNally took out the honours in the AM class, with Woodhouse not too far behind.
So this is what happened then?
Yeah, I think Sutton made had an error the lap prior, because that gap really came down quite a lot. You can see they dropped off the front two. And then, so similar things, Svidovic just around the, yeah, hard to call that one.
And then I think there's further contact as well down at the toe, I imagine. Oh, well, there's contact there as well into the chute. So, I mean, I think there's may have been a little bit of a grudge between these two, as it was 3 wide with an apex driver on the inside. That could have been George Simmons, perhaps, and maybe Ben Palmer as well. and they both get done through that. And Swidovic and Sutton will not be best of friends. Palmer really making a bit more contact there, and Swidovic managed to come back at him. You can see how the crowd of cars catching up just behind as well. Would have been fascinating if we got another lap as well with this huge bunch of drivers fighting for a top 10 place, and even Swidovic nearly losing it on the final corner as well. So incredible end to the race, and we weren't short on action before that as well. Race 2 and race 3, I'm sure, will be even more enthralling. But for now, we'll go through the race results, and it's Jack Cedric who wins out, Nicole Foggy in second place. Dave Baker finishes in third with Alex Simpson in fourth, both of those guys being promoted a few places on that last lap. Then it's George Simmons, Wojciech Swidovic, Ash Sutton, Ben Palmer, Jamie Rushworth and Pete Newman rounding up the top 10. Then it was Ross McFarlane, Pete Harrods, Jason Cooper, Jack McIntyre, Daniel Kraft, Adam McNally, I believe, top of the AM drivers. Then there's Julian Janowski, Mark Woodhouse, Jake Blackhall, Christian Rose, Sven Glatzel, Mesiek Sakovic, apologies, Russell Labler, Richard Warmian, Paul Smith, Adam Hedgecock, Michael Hall, Kip Stevens, Sean Gardner, John Roberts, David Van Broek, Chris Wood, Scott Malcolm, Ewart Van Ryan, Andrew Whitehead, Carl Profke, Luke Cooper, and Colin Cunniff. So those were all the drivers who started the race, I believe, yeah. And they all finished on the lead lap. So everyone will be eligible for the reverse grid, which is fantastic for us because it's less maths as we get out the reverse grid wheel, and we'll find out what the reverse grid is going to be.
And sadly, it will be only 15.
Oh, I was hoping it was going to be a -2, so that would be easier maths than normal for us. However, it is 15, which will mean Dan Kraft will be on pole position. That's unfortunate for Adam McNally. Great drive, but just misses out. So too does Julian Janowski. But Dan Kraft will be on pole position. Jack McIntyre in second place, Jason Cooper in third, and Pete Harrod in fourth place. It'll be an enthralling race 2. Hopefully you will not miss it. We'll be back in about 20 minutes time for race 2 here at Watkins Glen.
what amazing!
Lee to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save!
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
I tried, there's contact though. Slide left of the racetrack. Chris Benner drives it back down underneath and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe. Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schumacher, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing.
Race lead to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save.
Look to the outside as Kroenke goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
Trying this contact though.
Wide left of the racetrack. Chris Venner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Welcome back to the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship live on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by Apex Racing TV. We are prepping for race 2 here at Watkins Glen, and race 1 was an extremely exciting event. We got a 15-car reverse lay from the finishing results from race 1 to form the grid for this race 2. So, Brad Plank, this could be an even more exciting race, I think. I think this is going to be really quite unpredictable, a little bit mixed around. However, those top guys from race 1 do have a realistic chance of perhaps repeating that success with such a reverse grid, with such a small reverse grid.
Yeah, there's definitely some winners and losers with the reverse grid being so small, but I'm sure the likes of Sedgwick and Foggy, and that will be quite happy to see it, and they'll be keen to try and make their way forward back to the front. But there's quite a competitive lineup of cars in that top 15 to try and prevent them from doing so. And I'm sure Daniel Craft and Jake McIntyre would like to have something to say about that too. Jason Cooper in P3's quite strong, and we saw Ross McFarlane towards the front that previous race, and then had a few issues drop back. So yeah, I think it's going to be really hard fought at the front for this one. I'd be surprised if we see cars get away. Oh, and we're running already.
Yep, Dan Craft from the pole position, and Jack McIntyre might be able to take it from him. Going into turn 1, round the outside. He goes, car number 8, but Craft holds on to it well. We saw, though, second place, the place to be, go on this run down to the carousel, so maybe that slipstream effect will help him. Good start for Ross McFarlane, already up into 3rd place. Poor start for Jason Cooper, down into 5th. Also poor start for Jamie Rushworth, started up in 7th, but down 4 places into 11th. As you can see, a little bit side by side. However, the top 5 all in single file. We might see a change for the leaders. Craft is only 1/10 of a second, half a tenth of a second ahead of Jack McIntyre. He now pulls alongside. He goes to the outside, does McIntyre, which was a very successful tactic in race 1. I wonder if he has made it going into the chute. No, he hasn't. Jack McIntyre just about stays ahead as they all run a little bit wide, I believe. Ross McFarlane really interested in making up a couple more places. He was quick in race 1, was McFarlane. Got shoved down the order late on. However, he is absolutely storming at the starts of this race 2 as having to go defensive against Pete Harrod.
Yeah, he definitely made his intentions very clear right from the get-go in this one. So we'll see if he's able to make his way to the very front over the course of the early laps here. Again, quite a well-behaved start from everyone. Not a lot of hip and shoulders, etc. down through turn 1. So a lot of cars got single file quite early. But because there's still a bit of too wide action heading back out onto the main circuit from the boot. Just heading through the sweeping sweeping left-hander there. It's a great corner, great sequence of corners. This really provides good too wide racing. We see the changes of position at the front there as well. Let's
Craft another change. The inside. Craft having to, McIntyre and McFarlane maybe will profit from this. into the lead goes Ross McFarlane, up 4 places from his start. So that's an incredible opening lap for him. He was absolutely clinical there as we got Janowski, and he's really stranded. That's going to be big contact. And that is a few drivers involved. I say a few, it's even more than that. And that's just the unfortunate there, because the wall is so close on the outside as drivers try to limp their way through. Lars van Rijn certainly involved in that one. So too Adam Hedgecock is trying to just get pointing back the right way. No faster pairs, of course, for these drivers. So Janowski already off the side. He's just going to try to come back on. And that is the problem we see every single time in big class racing. It's who really, should you, if you're on the circuit, should you leave space for another driver, and then everyone in coming, piling in just behind and causing mass issues. A little bit of netcode as well seemingly involved. So we'll see how many drivers that affected. I think it was about 17 as we got another massive impact, and that's Jack McIntyre, and that is another 10 cars in big trouble, as drivers are going to have to scatter either way. Jack Sedgwick just about getting through that. George Simmons getting involved as well. I think he was quite near the front of it, and from an incredibly clean first few races, there's Wojciech Suridovic as well out, and that could be really important for the showdown standings. All of this could be massive as to who gets into that crucial top 8 in the AM and top 10 in the Pro. And also Adam Hedgecock, who was involved in the first one, just limping across, taking the shortcut. So that has really whittled down these drivers and allowed a few drivers to make massive gains. Michael Hall up 14 places from 27th on the grid. These guys have got through it cleanly though. And Dan Kraft has, in all of that, retaken the lead off Ross McFarlane. Apologies to Dan for not paying too much attention to that, but he is back ahead of McFarlane, who's trying to hesitate right back as he goes down the inside, and Kraft just lets him have the position, and we have a third change for the lead in a single lap.
Yeah, need to take a breath there, because things got rather heated very quickly after we just gave him a bit of a compliment at the clean start to the race. But we don't like to see carnage like that, but with the reverse grids, unfortunately, sometimes that is inevitable with the close quarters racing that we have with these cars. Things have settled down a little bit. Sutton managed to keep his nose clean through all that. He's got a bit of a rear gunner in the form of Rushworth there at that moment. You could see what we just saw the previous lap is a perfect example of why McFarlane was so keen to get to the front early. Obviously, if you're closer to the front you are, the less likely you are to get caught up in some of those incidents. A lot of those drivers just really had nowhere to go.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't too far away from potentially even a safety car, but I think we managed to avoid any need for that, but really was absolutely chaotic. So we've now got a massive pack of drivers, you can see, just an absolute a worm almost. That is horrendous terminology, but that is what it looks like, as running wide almost into the wall was Ben Palmer there, right on the tail of Nico Foggy. It could be a decent point score for Ben Palmer today. Finished in 8th place in race 1, benefiting from a couple of incidents late on, and he's going very well as well in race 2. But in terms of how many drivers got involved in that, we're down to 27 drivers on the lead lap. We've got 11 all in the pits having to take tow, so that is a third of the grid out of the race. And like I said earlier on, no fast spares for those drivers, so absolutely no chance for them to get back involved in the racing, and they won't be eligible for the reverse grid. Make it close amongst these guys though. Jamie Rushworth at the front of this pack, but I think he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck now to Nico Foggy, who's trying to make up his 8th position out on circuits. As apologies, we go back to Ross McFarlane, 0.2 of a second behind Dan Kraft, who retakes the lead once again. That slipstream effect, I didn't expect it to be too large, to be honest, Brad, when I first saw these cars. But at Phillip Island, we saw it, where you could gain 0.7 of a second potentially on a lap with the slipstream. And once again, we're seeing it here, where overtaking is easy for these drivers.
Yeah, tracks like this where you have like such a fast first sector, it's the cars basically hit their VMAX as far as what they could do, pushing against the air by themselves. So the cars behind, particularly towards the tail end of that back stretch, you slowly catch, but then once you get within the tail end of that stretch, you start to close really quickly. So it's good. It provides some great racing. But even through the boot section, we see some great racing there too. And see Palmer just ducking out, showing the nose, just trying to take a slightly different line, give himself a better view of the apexes in this train. It's a easy mistake to make when you're following close behind in a train like this, to miss an apex or miss a braking marker, being unsighted by the car in front. So quite often you'll see drivers just place their car sort of half a car width to one side, not really looking to make a move, but just to be able to pinpoint their turning points and braking points a little bit easier. But here we go up the hill through the S's, the lead onto the backstretch, and so this is where the slipstream starts to take into effect. But yeah, the second half of his stretch here, and you can see Sedgwick's able to pull out, easily get to overlap on the inside. Not quite enough to get the move done there though. And this is that section that always provides great racing at Watkins Glen, with the cars getting side by side, and then you've got a change of direction. We see Rushworth getting the inside line. Oh, Sedgwick with a slide in the chute. That enables the other cars to close up a little bit there.
Yeah, and that lets Jamie Rushworth a little bit off the leash. I mean, I was surprised about that mistake from Cedric, because he pulled off that move absolutely perfectly on the last lap of race 1, but making a small mistake there, and it's just holding up his progress. He wants to get those couple of cars further up the road. He can maybe see a top 5, a very big possibility for him. Out in the lead, by the way, Ross McFarlane's retaken it, but however, that's not absolutely massive news, because that's been the story of this race. Probably bigger news is Pete Harrod and Jason Cooper are right back onto these guys, as Dan Croft has disappeared for a section. Hopefully, he is okay, and he is. So a little bit of a connection issue for him. Doesn't want that too much, especially on the last lap, otherwise he probably won't be able to yield the toe effects, but yeah, a little bit of a dangerous moment for him. He's 0.6 of a second behind. As long as he can stay 0.6 of a second behind, he should get to within about 0.2 of a second behind by the end of this straight. Such is the length. These guys absolutely flat out through this uphill section, and then all the way down the back straight really does give them a great chance at the end of the lap. Lap 6, by the way, and we will have 11 if race 1 was anything to judge by. These guys staying at a pretty similar pace. As now, Kraft, rather than looking ahead of him, he's going to kind of look a little bit behind him. We've also got this mega close battle. This is Ash Sutton being pushed along by Nicole Foggy. Foggy worked as a team earlier on with Jack Sedgwick to win that race, and once again they're working together and they are romping up to the back of the drivers ahead. Here's Cedric finally getting ahead of Jamie Rushworth. It's taking him a few more corners than he really wanted to. And finally, Rushworth having to give in on that position. He drops back down to 8th. Next up, Palmer and Baker. However, I think Rushworth's got the pace to keep up with Cedric. And now we've kind of got some very quick guys in the form of Sutton, Foggy and Cedric, all kind of pulling each other along to catch up to the top 5 drivers.
Yeah, that little mistake from Cedric before put him right in the sort of CQR sandwich with the teammates there, so they definitely weren't going to make it too easy for him to make his way back through, but good work to be able to do that. And you can see this looks like he's starting to close a little bit on the back of Foggy there. Sutton and Foggy haven't been able to quite get the gap that they were hoping for. I think if Sedgwick gets a good run through turn 1, he'll start to get into the slipstream of these guys. So I think this train's going to close up a little bit. And you can see the guys in the lead.
Yeah, it's going to be really close to a lead, because I think Kraft is 0.4 of a second behind going through turn 1, which is pretty much where you want to be, because he's going to have such momentum. by the end of the back straight. He's about 2 tenths to a second behind, may not have a move, but here he goes. Oh, he is now pushing him along. So, getting a bit tactical now. They've been swapping positions every single lap for a while already. This lap's 7, and they've changed positions at least 4 times. But this time, just nudging him along, helping each other along, because they realise the threat of the likes of Foggy, who's got back ahead of Sutton out there. As Palmer has a battle with Rushworth. By the way, Cedric, the fastest driver on the last lap, the only driver in the 55. That's not far off what they were doing in qualifying, I believe. Such is their pace at the moment as the tyres warm up, of course. Of course, anyone who isn't familiar with this tyre model on iRacing, the new tyre model V7, does reward to heating up those tyres a little bit. So these drivers just get faster and faster as the race progresses. To make it tight here with Dave Baker trying to get down the inside. He's got to be careful of his own teammate though. And now there is contact. It looked like a lot of netcode, to be honest, because he was going in mega hot. Ben Palmer, the recipient of that, and he drops down. And shame for Palmer, he was running as high as 8th earlier on, but back down to 12th.
Yeah, I think he probably feels like the CQR cars perhaps ganging up on him a little bit there. Sort of 1 versus 3. It hasn't played out too well for Palmer there. We might see a bit of teamwork coming in play at the front towards the end of this as well, because I think Kraft has been happy to sit in P2 there because he's got a teammate in the form of Harrod as a rear gunner and potential friend coming down to the last couple of laps of the race later on. So we have this middle pack here. It's a lot to play for. The guys trying to maximise again the position for this race, not knowing what the wheel will dish you out for the final one. So every point counts. It's probably better to just get as far up the field as you can to try and be inside that reverse grid and to maximise the points in this one. Now Sedgwick having a look down the inside of Foggy. Just a little bit of contact there, and that's Sutton just makes his way straight through. Doors open for him. Sedgwick running wide down through the toe.
Maybe just laying that one back, I think, after the contact previously, which is good sportsmanship. But why they're fighting quite so much? I mean, these are 2 very quick drivers. I thought they were just following in the slipstream of one another, but instead fighting a little bit. And I mean, their chances of catching up to the top 4 really gone now. Alex Simpson being a little bit quiet, up 3 places though from his start, up into 9th, but having to fight quite a bit. CQR goes all over the place. The 99 car round the outside of the 333 car. Jamie Rushworth, will he be able to get his car alongside? No, he won't. Simpson making some good progress. Also making good progress, Russell Laidler down in 13th place. Michael Hall is up 12 places into 15th. Also, David Von Broek up 13 places to 18th. Martin Sampson up 16 places to 22nd. So there's been some big beneficiaries out here, out of the big collisions. And of course, 26 drivers still running out of the 38 we had at the start. 2 big crashes within a few seconds of one another have really whittled down these drivers. As we're on to the 3rd to final lap. 11 laps for these drivers, 20 minutes. And the top 4 is looking extremely close at the moment. McFarlane under pressure again from Kraft, but it's been a few laps since Kraft really tried to retake the lead now, as Foggy's got back past Sutton.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if these SimSports racing cars end up working all together as we get into the final lap. But one of the CQR drivers there, that's Sutton, just getting a little bit out of shape through the chute. Cedric down the side, he's trying to get that moved on. Not quite being able to do it on the exit, as Sutton gets a great drive on the outside of the corner, but Cedric's going to have the inside heading into the hill. Sutton hangs on around the outside to try and get the inside as we head back up onto the Cup circuit. Yeah, it's great racing from these guys.
Big rivalry between these two. I think after the contact earlier on, they really do not want to let one another go at all. And fortunately for them, they're just about staying within Nico Foggy's draft. If they weren't, then they'd be mega vulnerable to the queue of drivers catching up to them at the moment, being headed by Dave Baker. He's on for another big result after this race. We'll certainly check in with the point standings because, as we said earlier on, it is a big round this, the final round before the showdown. After this, the top 10 drivers in the pro standings, their points are reset. And the top 8 in the AM standings, their points are reset. And then you have a 4-race showdown, very similar to what you have in NASCAR. And should be an enthralling end to the season. So many drivers will be fighting for that title. Stutton, once again, trying to go down the inside, but losing that slipstream to Nicole Foggy, who's got back ahead of Jack Cedric. Sorry, apologies. Cedric and Foggy both getting past Sutton. I mean, just shows the strength of that slipstream once again. Here is George Simmons battling with Rusty Laidler and Michael Hall.
So yeah, tight little battle pack here in the midfield. Oh, it's a little bit wide there from Laidler. Is able to get it back on the black stuff without too much drama. Oh, that's a bit of a late look down the inside on Simmons. A little bit of contact there. Pushes Simmons wide. I don't think he'll be too happy about that one. It's going to tuck back in, try and get back on this train, ready for the straight. But yeah, these guys are fighting hard, even though it's down here for the looks like the 14th position we're fighting for here at the moment in this group, which could be significant as we head into the wheel again next race. If it was to be a 15 that comes up again, then this battle could be quite significant in how the grid forms up.
Yeah, it could be. Moving on to the last lap then for these guys. Lap 11, just as we saw in race 1, as the timer very much ticks out. Maciej Sakovic, I don't know why I'm messing up Maciej's name today, but he is pulling away. That is the most important thing. Looks as though that 13th place will come to him after starting in 22nd, as Kraft has taken the lead off Ross McFarlane once again. Can McFarlane respond here? Round the outside he goes through the carousel. Brilliant speed carried by him on corner entry. However, he runs a little bit wide, and now Kraft can cover off that inside line. Here comes as well, just behind Pete Harrod, trying to pounce at the perfect moment as well. Now, the move down into the chute proved decisive in race 1. Is there any opportunity to come back here for Ross McFarlane? Kraft has left the door open. McFarlane's down the inside. Is there contact? There is contact. Now, will he pull ahead the V-Racer driver? Yes, he will. Dan Kraft drops back again, and you'll have the outside line for the next corner. He is not best pleased with this. As you can see from his driving, it's too wide. Two back as Pete Harrod and Jason Cooper go side by side. Cooper's a little bit wide. McFarlane is going to be wide as well. He dips a wheel onto the grass, I think. And now those two are alongside once again. Dan Kraft trying to desperately run round the outside, but he's running out of corners to take back this race win, which he may feel should have been his. There's big contact, third place this round. That is Cooper out of it. However, he might still finish in the top 10 as McFarlane is approaching the line. Kraft is mega close to him. It's half a tenth through a second. Here comes Kraft. It's coming down to the final corner. Here he goes. V-Racer versus CQR, but it is Ross McFarlane with the better launch, and it's Ross McFarlane who will win race 2 at Watkins Glen by 7/100ths of a second over Dan Kraft. Incredibly close finish. Kraft tried absolutely everything. McFarlane tried everything, and in the end, it was McFarlane who took the race win.
Yeah, well, another dramatic end to the race, just like the previous one. Not sure Kraft will be particularly happy with that. I think McFarlane was up on the curb on the inside, of even two wheels on the grass, I think, heading into the toe, trying to make that move.
Ooh, this was,
Ooh.
is that Sutton and Simpson? Baker, apologies.
Baker.
So Cooper, despite crashing, actually finished in 7th place. Would have been probably lower if Baker and Simpson hadn't crashed into one another. But swear that you can crash like that and still be okay. I mentioned you probably had a meatball right there.
Yeah, a bit of a shout out to Laidler there, the top AM driver, coming home in position 12, I believe, making up 11 spots. Not the biggest gain of positions throughout that race with the carnage that we saw, but it's great to see the AM drivers getting up there, mixing it with the pros.
Yeah, nice result there for Laidler. And now, as everyone has crossed the line, well, everyone who finished has crossed the line, you can go through the final results. And it's Ross McFarlane who wins from 5th place on the grid, just about beats Dan Kraft. Incredible final lap between those two. Pete Howard, good 3rd place for him. That's really impressive. Nicole Foggy finishes in 4th place from 14th on the grid. There's Ash Sutton, Jack Sedgwick. Those three had a brilliant battle. Then there's Jason Cooper, Jamie Rushworth, Christian Rose. We didn't see too much of him, but good result in 9th. And Ben Palmer rounding out the top 10. There was Maciek Sakowicz. Russell Laidler rounds out the top 12. Top AM driver, of course, was Rusty. And then it was Michael Hall, George Simmons, Dave Baker, Alex Simpson, Paul Smith, David Manbrook, Richard Warmingham, Kip Stevens, Scott Malcolm, Martin Sampson, Pete Newman, John Roberts, Carl Kefi, Andrew Whitehead. Luke Cooper was the first driver who will not be eligible for the reverse grid, and of course will not score points. He was 6 laps down. The other retirees from those 2 big pile-ups we saw were Julian Janowski, Adam McNally, Wojciech Suidovic, Sven Glatzel, Mark Woodhouse, Jack McIntyre, Sean Gardner, Colin Cunniff, Lawrence Van Ryn, Adam Hedgecock, and Jake Blackhall. 38 drivers, 26 of them finishing the race. Much higher attrition rate than we saw in race 1. Question is, what is going to be the reverse grid, Sam, the second of the day?
Yeah, let's see. Bring the wheel on the screen and spin it. And I think it's gonna be a little bit bigger this time. It is full -4.
Full -4. So that will not be Whitehead. That will not be Pok Refke. Will not be Roberts, and it will not be Newman. I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Sampson. Yes, I think. Martin Sampson will be on pole position then. Honestly, it's not that tricky. I don't know. I got a C in A-level maths. I can't count to 4. I think Martin Sampson is on pole position then for race D. Scott Malcolm, who I don't think we've seen all day. He'll start on the front row of the grid alongside him, so a great opportunity for those 2 drivers. So race 3 of the evening will come up in about 20 minutes time. You do not want to miss it, as the final race before the showdown in the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship gets the green flag. We'll see you back in 20 minutes time.
inside wall.
He's gonna pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's gonna get them all done with. What amazing!
Race lead to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is gonna touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save!
Look to the outside as Kroenke goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's Howling down to the inside.
I trying this contact though.
Slide left of the racetrack. Chris Venner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact. He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schubert, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
Welcome back to the iRacing Esports Network and the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship. We are preparing for the final race of the evening, and Brad, it's been extremely entertaining so far. Race 1, not too many incidents. Race 2 cannot be said the same. Quite a few retirees after a couple of big crashes. However, what has been consistent from those two races is the incredible wheel-to-wheel action. We've seen last lap moves in both races, and this race 3, bigger reverse grid, I think it's going to really mix up the order, give a few drivers a superb chance at a win.
Yeah, that race 2 was quite dramatic. Right after we praised the drivers on being quite well behaved for the first couple of laps, we saw some really large incidents, a lot of drivers involved. But here we are with the grid for this last race. Martin Sampson on pole with Scott Malcolm beside him on the front row, Kip Stevens, Rich Warmingham, David Van Broek, Pat Smith, Alex Simpson, David Baker, George Simmons, Michael Hall, Russell Laidler, Magic Sakovic, rounding out the top 12, Ben Palmer, Christian Rose, Jamie Rushworth, Jason Cooper, Jack Sedgwick, Ashley Sutton, Nicole Foggy, and Pete Harrod round out the top 20. As we cycle through the rest there, we should see the lights coming on very soon.
Yeah, so Sampson.
Here they are right now.
Pole position. We've seen the pole sit to get a pretty good start. They have the inside line for turn 1 as race 3 here at Watkins Glen gets underway. How good a start is Malcolm's. He's not going to be able to launch any type of challenge. Kip Stevens might even be able to get past as well. Malcolm trying to cover him off as he takes quite a sweeping line there. Does the car number 74. He does hang on to it though, as Richard Warmingham sees an opportunity to get past Stevens, and he does get past the defending or the former champion. Paul Smith also up a position. Dave Baker as well. Good stuff with Jack Sedgwick up a couple of places. But there's very few changes as they sweep through the opening few corners here at Watkins Glen for the final time tonight. Sampson's going to be under big pressure from Malcolm down into the carousel. We've seen 2 changes for the lead as the second place driver usually gets a really good run. Malcolm gets the inside line. No defense put up by Sampson. Maybe preferring the outside line, but if you're going to go that wide, then you're going to probably lose the race lead. And that is what happens. Scott Malcolm into the lead. Richard Warring might also be able to take the lead as he goes down the inside. Big move from Richard Warring. He's up 3 places from his starting place of 4th. And now can he get fully ahead of Scott Malcolm? He sure can. It's Richard Warmingham, car number 504, who leads the way after half a lap.
Yeah, we had some 3 wide action heading out through the outer loop. Just in the back of this shot, in this chute, I saw a car in the wall.
All black calls out.
On the outside.
And Laidler's dropping down as well. And yeah, a few changes out there. Look at the swarm of cars going into these final couple of corners. Nicole Foggy right in the walls after a big reverse grid set him back quite significantly.
Still 2 and 3 wide action as they come off the boot section of the track and back onto the shorter layout. CQ Archive is getting into a single file there, which is a smart move heading onto the straight. They can try and work together to get themselves back up on the train up in front. And what a long train that is. You can see drivers pulling out to the inside to have a look here. There's one of the Apex drivers there. And Ben Broek, he runs very, very wide on the exit of 1. Oh, gets a little bit of the grass. Fortunately, we didn't see a repeat of the incident from race 2 there.
Yeah, mega close between these guys. Van Broek maybe just loses 1 place to Simpson, but that's not too bad. Only down 3 places from his starts is David. Now, getting a little bit freight changed is a couple of drivers on the inside. That might be Michael Hall and maybe Sakovic as well, as they all try to sort themselves out as they go onto the boot section of the track. It's still Warmingham leading from Malcolm and Stevens. And mega opportunity for contact here, as there is contact. Spinning round, good save. The front wheel drive helping out the car there, but more contact, and you're not going to save that one. Michael Hall missed, unlucky for those few seconds, as he almost gets collected for a third time. He did brilliant to save the first attempt, but that's going to send them way back through the order. And I think he may have had half a chance at the showdown as well. That's not going to help his chances whatsoever. This is what's going to happen then. I think he's going to just get shoved out this first time. Leaves plenty of room on the inside and just gets a little bit of tap behind. And then the second time, trying to get back onto the racing line and being hit by perhaps Foggy. I imagine that certainly was an XVR driver. So drops right to the back of the field.
Yeah, unfortunate for him there. It's, the second part probably could have been avoided if he took a little bit more care, but obviously in the heat of action, you want to try and get the momentum and back on the line as quickly as possible. As we see Foggy having a bit of a wild moment to close out that lap there. Again, guys hunting down into turn one, trying to make up positions in this final race. We've got Palmer and Sedgwick. Oh, a little bit of a hip to shoulder contact there. So they head up through the S's. Everyone trying to play this game of chess along the backstretch, try and get their car in position for the run through the outer loop and the shoot down into the boot, where we see so many position changes with the two varying lines. More contact.
Oh, and that's into the wall as well for Sedgwick, who is lucky not to get hit again, but you can see how that's, probably 8 positions lost right there for Jack Sedgwick. And he's back to actually where he started in 17th place, so painful situation for him, the race 1 winner. However, he is getting a decent amount of points, it looks like, today in comparison to some of his rivals who got caught up in that race 2 wreck. On that last lap, actually, Sutton was the fastest driver out on circuit with a 56.5. He's down in 9th place. However, it just shows how so many drivers have got different pace out here. In fact, it's pretty much a massive queue right now from David Van Breukers. Martin Sampson's off the circuit, as I think we'll just see there onto the side of the screen. Misses the wall, but he was running in 7th place, the pole sitter. It does feel like a while ago now, but you can see he's desperately trying to get out of the way. It's really difficult to get these TCR cars back onto circuit from the grass due to the fact that they are front-wheel drive, just losing all steering capability. And, a little bit like the driver that you saw earlier on. He's right at the back of the order now, as near contact the final corner with Jack and McIntyre involved.
Yes. Lots of side-to-side contact happening in this one. Everyone's trying to maximize what they can get out of this final race, and probably a few drivers with showdown positions sort of hinging on this result. To see this train head up through the S's, and it's Glatzel there just trying to attach himself on the back of this train ahead, just looking to try and work his way forward with Swedovich, who had an unfortunate race 2. He's trying to solidify his position in the showdown if he can. He's going to need to make up quite a few positions in this one for that to happen, I believe. McFarlane has done quite well. Our race 2 winner is up 9 positions in P13 in amongst a battle a little bit ahead of these guys.
Really close as well for the top 6 now, so the top 6 kind of all grouped together. I think Dave Baker was a bit detached earlier on in 4th place, but now he's really caught up. And then behind those top 6 is Ash Sutton, so you can almost bank on it being a top 7 very soon. As also Jamie Rushworth following through past David Van Broek, who's held on to that position for a while. You can see the queue behind Van Broek, and to be fair, he's not particularly slow, but they're all fighting behind him, and so he tries to scamper away, but slipstream effect just helping everyone else drag up to the boosted motorsports driver. As we are about to complete lap 4 of this race, we're already about a third the way in, or even more than that. 11 laps we expect, as Van Breuk is going to get done now by Foggy. These are some of the quickest drivers on the grid who are streaming past him at the moment. And right now, with of course, with the fact that we've got it's into the wall. It's Ben Palmer. Is that it for Palmer? He may have got away with that. If that's not a blown engine, the angle in which he went into the wall should be absolutely fine in terms of his steering. But he is still very. So has he even got a puncture? He seems to be a bit lopsided in that car. No, he seems to be okay, just getting up the speed, and that is remarkable, and that is perhaps showing the damage model on this TCR car. It is built like a brick.
Yeah, might have been a little bit of netcode involved there, perhaps, which saved the car from the large impact on the wall. But while we're watching that, these battles in the midfield are raging, and Baker's been able to make a move at the start of this lap as well to get himself into P3, trying to break up those AM drivers at the front. But we've got Sakowicz here right in the thick of this battle. And a bit of bump drafting with Newman. So they try to position their cars in through the heel of the boot. Haven't seen quite as much 2x2 action through the boot section this race as the previous two. Looks like the guys are trying to stay single file and work together to try and get to stay with the train. The 2x2 action there can see the cars ahead get away a little bit. So we've got one of the Apex drivers looking to the inside there. I think that's Alex Simpson. He's trying to get the move done on Malcolm.
Yeah, everyone trying to get past Malcolm all of a sudden. He was running in second place for a while, but got a little bit detached from Richard Warring. It's kind of been given a bit of a hurry up of the likes of Baker and Simpson, who have just got past him. Next up will be Stevens. He's maybe not a whole lot faster than Malcolm. Those two have been stuck together for the majority of today's meeting. But then after that, you got Smith and then Sutton, Foggy, Rushworth, Simmons, McFarlane. And you don't feel too good when you see that pack of drivers sitting right behind you. Here comes Stevens then. He'll get past Scott Malcolm, the driver who started on pole position, of course. In second place, took the lead, though, of course, in the opening stages. And Malcolm just losing positions left, right, and centre. However, of course, it's more about where he finishes among the drivers, which will be mega important for him. One of the most experienced drivers on the track, of course. Sutton dives down the inside, doesn't want to lose any time whatsoever. Foggy, by the way, fastest lap of the race on that last tour. He was 1.1 seconds faster than his teammate and race leader Richard Warmingham. And in fact, Foggy is only 2.5 seconds off the lead, the top 10 drivers separated by 2.5 seconds at the moment. Really does show how any one of these guys could still win this race, as Foggy now gets past Kip Stevens. So this is a painful lap for Stevens and Malcolm, who have done absolutely nothing wrong, Brad, and yet have lost about 5 places each and are continuing to lose places.
Yeah, well, these cars in such close proximity, all it takes is the slightest error or for one of the cars to get that slipstream and pull to the inside, and that opens the door for the following car and perhaps another one after that. So it's easy to sort of lose that momentum and rhythm when you're fighting so closely with these guys. But the flip side of that is, if he can stay with them, he may be able to do the same to a couple of those drivers and return the favour. So we see 2 wide heading up through the S's here. It's Rushworth and Simmons trying to sort that out and get single file. Interestingly, Rushworth was behind Sutton earlier. I thought he might have been able to follow Sutton through as his teammate made progress, but unfortunately for him, he hasn't been able to. He's been caught back with these guys in this battle, and meanwhile, Sutton's been able to make his way forward and break away into that top 4. See Malcolm hanging around down the inside there. So still a good battle happening with Simmons there. Simmons down the inside, and that's McFarlane, who continues to make his progress forward. He's up 13 positions now. So he could still be one to watch. There's 7 minutes left in this race, and he was very, very strong earlier. So he'll be looking to make up more positions. And right as these guys think they might get a bit of a break, Sedgwick is trying to follow McFarlane's footsteps as well. So yeah, the AM drivers have had the pro drivers all over them in this race. Oh, we've got one of
I
the
think that's
boosted cars
surely
hitting the wall.
maybe was it Van Broek, perhaps, who is now falling down? There he is. Oh well, that's got to be big stone damage, surely, for Van Broek, because he gave that wall a good old slap and has stayed out on track there. Should still finish this race. It's getting close for the lead. Warmingham, Baker and Simpson separating out by 0.6 of a second, wide for Warmingham. That might be the line that he likes. However, it didn't seem to do him a whole lot of good. Now Baker maybe just trying to lift off a little bit on the bottom of the hill, so that he can get the perfect run. He's got Simpson right on his tail. This is massive for Alex Simpson, who is out of the showdown standings at the moment. If he can finish on the podium here, that might just be what he needs, as he bump draft Dave Baker, and they are going to freight train past Richard Warmium, the XVR driver, absolutely stranded on the inside. Now, can Simpson swoop round the outside through the carousel to get the inside for the next corner to take a crucial second place, as the likes of Sutton and Foggy quickly catch up to these three drivers? Simpson down the inside into the chute, and Warmium, usually a very courteous driver, does let him go. So it's Baker who leads, Simpson in second place. Here comes Sutton out of nowhere. Brilliant driving from Ash Sutton. He knew he had to get into third place straight away, and that is what he's managed to achieve. Watch out for Foggy into this very next corner. These two are teammates, so you'd expect a little bit more teamwork from these guys. Will Foggy go for the move? No, maybe because they were teammates, he didn't feel the confidence to go for a bit of a dive, but now we'll be able to pull ahead. And I seriously doubt that Warrior will put any defense whatsoever. And we see once again a driver doing nothing wrong and yet losing 4 places in a handful of corners there for Richard Warrior. Could still be a decent amount of points though for him.
Yeah, well, if he can hold that position, he's still going to be the leader in the AM class, and he did quite well to hold off the pro drivers that long. But these guys, they don't mess around, and they were quite aggressive in those moves, particularly Sutton down in the toe section of the boot. He's made that move several times during these races. Rushworth still battling away here at the front of this sort of second train. He's got Simmons all over him. There's like basically 4 cars, nose to tail, almost joined together. And that's Sedgwick at the tail of that train. Back up the front, Simpson's been able to get through, and Baker's looking to the inside. So now we've got the 2 CQR cars potentially going to try and work together to outfox Alex Simpson if they can. But Foggy could have something to say about this as well, as he throws it down the inside through the chute. And he's going to have the outside though, with Sutton again taking the inside line through the toe. He always seems to still be able to get good drive off the corner. Most of the guys who go to the inside there struggle to get the drive off as they're coming up the hill, but somehow Sutton's able to get on the throttle nice and early, still on that inside line.
Of course, Sutton, former British touring cars champion of 2016, I believe it was, or maybe 2017. One of the top drivers in World Motorsport, and he's one of the top drivers in this series as well. Certainly going to be in the showdown spot. So Simpson has taken the lead. I'm not sure if we saw that move from Simpson, but he is now leading the car number 99. Baker then in second place. And so we move on to lap 10. This will be the penultimate lap of the race. as they stream across the line. So it looks as though it's going to be a 5-way battle. Kip Stevens, credit to Stevens. I mean, he's in 6th place. He's done brilliantly since he got dropped. However, he's just out of the slipstream range, which will be painful for him because it might leave him vulnerable to the likes of Cedric later on. Driver massively wide. I mean, going up into Pennsylvania or something there for one of the drivers. And maybe Dan Kraft, perhaps, who took an alternative line. Still, these big packs going on. Kraft involved as well as maybe Simpson is going to be under pressure from Baker. Here comes Baker. Outside line is better than the inside line. Simpson wanted to cover that inside line, but you can just see how easy it is. If you've got that momentum, you can quite easily go around the outside. I guess through the chute, you can also stay around the outside, but Simpson just hasn't got the grip at the moment in order to defend that one, and Baker wants to gain takes it. He's got to be careful though from Sutton now as Simpson, as Foggy just behind. Here comes Sutton. He loves this move, and he gives you the question, do you want to make contact, yes or no? Simpson says no, and Sutton says yes to 2nd place. He's up 16 places from his start. An incredible drive. He's been so decisive with his moves, and now Simpson's going to be under pressure from Nicole Foggy as well. Can Sutton go catch his teammate Dave Baker? Both of them will desperately want to win this race, so don't expect any team orders, but it is now a CQR 1-2 as Simpson and Foggy carry on fighting. Simpson's gone into Foggy, and now that allows Richard Warmingham to move up into 3rd place, and this has worked remarkably well for CQR, who now are looking like they're going to have a comfortable 1-2 as Simpson goes from the favourite to win the race down to 4th place.
Yeah, that wasn't ideal there, but I don't think Warmingham will be complaining because he was able to stay in touch with those guys after they kind of muscled him away from the lead a little bit before, and it's played out well for him, being able to capitalize on the contact between Simpson and Foggy there. You see Sedgwick has put in the fastest lap of the race with 55.17, and he's been able to make his way through that 2nd pack that we were watching earlier. He's going to quite possibly get involved here. Unfortunately, Stevens has been demoted one further position with Sedgwick coming through, but I think that's still one of the better Automatic Knockhill results of the day if he's able to hold on there.
So Foggy hanging on against Simpson. Bit of a grudge between these two, I think, at this point in the race. I think Foggy had a grudge against Cedric earlier on as well, so he's not making too many friends. As I think Foggy will have the better line. It's really close for the race lead, though. Baker versus Sutton. Alternative line for Ash Sutton. He's taking a slightly squarer line and it gets him a better exit. Here we go then. Final 3 corners of this race. Sutton has gone for so many dives already in this race. Can he have one more up his sleeve, or will he allow his teammate to take this race victory? Both hitting the curb on the insiders. Warmingham is just a bystander, hoping that the extraordinary happens and the 2 teammates compromise each other's chances of winning this race. But it's still Dave Baker who's leading the way by 1/4 of a second. 2 corners to go on this, the 11th lap of the race. And he's now only got 1 to go. Warmingham taking an alternative line, maybe just letting Nicole Foggy pass. We'll speak about that in a moment. But out to lead, it's Dave Baker. He started down in 8th place. He is going to win here at Watkins Glen. Race 3 goes his way. Sutton in 3rd. Foggy gets 4th, seemingly being overtaken by, getting past Richard Warmingham. That could be for the bonus points. I can only imagine it was, because I don't see how Warmingham could have picked up a slowdown. And look at this pack of drivers, down from Kraft all the way down to Paul Smith. At the checkered flag was separated by about 1 second. That's 6 cars across the line. And race 3 maybe didn't have the absolute crashes of race 2, but once again, that incredible wheel-to-wheel racing. And the lead came down to the last lap again.
Yeah, I mean, the battles in that top 10, it was all so close that unfortunately we didn't get to see a great deal of what was happening in the midfield, which I'm sure there were some great battles happening there as well, but there was just not enough cameras to cover all the action, unfortunately. It's very hard to keep an eye on everything while we've got 30 plus drivers out on track with the the close quarters racing that we're seeing tonight. But yeah, fantastic racing. This is my induction to this series. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun to call these races, and we'll have a look at the results in a moment.
Yes, so I think all the drivers have crossed the line. So yeah, we can go through the final results now for the final time. In the normal season as well, we should have the points coming up for you in a bit once we've gone through all the results. So Dave Baker wins out, quarter of a second ahead of Ash Sutton. Nicole Foggy finishes in 3rd place to round out the podium. Then it was Richard Warringham, Alex Simpson, Jack Sedgwick, Kip Stevens, great result for him. Ross McFarlane, Jamie Rushworth, and Dan Craft rounding out the top 10. Behind that was George Simmons, Jason Cooper, Maciej Sakovic, Pete Newman, Paul Smith, Wojciech Swidovic. May not be good enough for the showdown, that for Swidovic in 16th place. Then there's David Rombrook, Jack McIntyre, Scott Malcolm, Pete Harrod, Russell Laidler, Luke Cooper, Ben Palmer, Colin Cunningham, John Roberts, Julian Janowski, Sven Glatzel, Christian Rose, Sean Gardner, Kyle Pokrepke, Martin Sampson, Mark Woodhouse was the last driver on the lead lap, and the last driver to score points. The retirees were Andrew Whitehead, Adam Hedgecock, Michael Hall, Adam McNally, Ewart Lawrence Van Ryn, and Jake Blackhall. 38 drivers, terrific turnout once again. And hopefully we'll have some discussion with the drivers as well. And hopefully we'll also keep an eye out on the points, see if they update miraculously. We might even get a chat with Dave Baker as well. We'll certainly appreciate his company. At the moment, shockingly, there is no drivers. What are they doing? But we're clearly having a bit of a debrief after the race, settling some scores, I think, because it got pretty action-packed there. So, next week, we head to Monza, I believe. And we saw today, Brad, the slipstream effect is strong in this car. And the most slipstream circuit is Monza. The pack racing we could see around that place is going to be incredible. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's. I would say after what we saw today, Monza will prove to be quite dangerous. Shall say, but great for the viewers. It could turn things into somewhat of a lottery for some drivers, depending on how the incidents play out. But again, it's just going to bring home the importance of qualifying well for that first race, trying to get up towards the front, and then keep your nose clean to guarantee, hopefully, that you'll be within the reverse grid when the wheel comes around. So yeah, I think drivers may have learnt a bit from this week heading into Monza with the draft and how they can use their teammates perhaps. So yeah, should make the start of the showdown very interesting.
So we have the points for the showdown. So this is how it will stand going into the showdown. Nicole Foggy wins the normal season by 12 points, 1,987 to 1,975 points between the top two. So it'll be Foggy, Sedgwick, McFarlane, Baker, Craft, Rushworth, Simmons, Cooper, Harrod, and Woods. Those guys managed to confirm their spots today. This is before penalties, so it could still change around a little bit. Alex Simpson, I mean, we're going to have to do some bribery or whatever because he missed out by 2 points. I mean, 1,685 to 1,683. He finishes in 11th place, does Simpson, in those praise stones, so will not be eligible for the showdown. Now, I should add, the 2 drivers who have got the most race wins, who aren't in the showdown spots, will get a spot in the showdown. I'm not quite sure who those drivers are, but up there would be Wojciech Swidovic, who I know has got 3 race victories, I believe, or maybe even 4. So that's not the complete picture. But in the AM standings, Hedgecock and Stevens tie for the normal season, tied to 1,602 points each. Richard warming in third, then it's Woodhouse, Blake, Smith, Van Broek, and Roberts. Those are the drivers guaranteed to finish, to take part in the showdown. And then there will be 2 other drivers who scored the best results. Behind them is 2 wildcard drivers. So, pretty incredible. The tightness of the points, absolutely incredible. And I mean, the top 10 in the Pro Standings and the top 8 in the AM Standings, no idea who is going to finish top of those drivers come the end of the season. It is so close, all of which are brilliant drivers. And yeah, I mean, tied for the AM title, Brad. I mean, that's pretty insane during the normal season. Yeah, of course, you're relatively new to the season, but would you say you'd give the edge to anyone in either of those championships to perhaps take the overall championship, take the showdown championship in a few weeks' time?
Well, it's I mean, just given the nature of the reverse grid races and the drafting that we're going to see at the first showdown event, it's be very, very hard to predict. But you'd have to say that Sutton's obviously one of the drivers that you can't discount from being able to avoid that carnage and make his way through. Also, we saw how strong McFarlane was today, even after the reverse grid not being so favourable after race 2. He was able to make his way through, make up 14 positions in that last race, and do it quite reasonably quietly as well. We didn't see too much action around him, even though he was caught up in those battles and being able to make those positions up. So there'd definitely be 2 drivers I'd be keeping an eye on. But yeah, it's going to be very, very unpredictable with the way things could play out at Monza. It's yeah, very interesting track to have as the first one in the showdown. But I guess it does, if things don't roll your way at Monza, it being the first race of the showdown, it does give opportunity to recover if it doesn't go so well.
Yeah, so that will take part next week, and then we'll have 2 weeks off. Something called Christmas is happening, so unfortunately we'll have the 26th off, and also New Year's, whatever that is. So we'll have the 2nd of January off, and then we'll be back again for the 9th of January, the 16th of January, and then the final round of the season at Daytona on the 23rd. By the way, the showdown calendar, Monza, Spa, Belle Isle, and Daytona. That is pretty legendary, that's that schedule. So brilliant way to cap off the season. And once again, a reminder, next week, Monza, the GP config, and that will set us off for the showdown places. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have any interviews with any drivers, which is a bit of a shame. Clearly, they're watching the general election happening, which I'm sure everyone else will be gripped to for tonight. But yeah, I'm sure they're doing that, and I think we'll sign off. So, of course, do check out everything else on the iRacing Esports Network. We've got other World Championship events, I believe, going on, along with just loads of different events. They're really fantastic to watch. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please check out our own channel, Apex Racing TV, with all our other shows as well, just as good as well. And of course, plenty of other broadcasts coming up on both those. Also check out our Facebook page as well, and our Twitch channel. So, from me, from Brad, and from Sam, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.